Welcome to Pillowtime Lore. This is your soft corner of the night, a place where stories live like warm embers, glowing in the dark. Before we begin, take a moment to slow down. Let your body melt into whatever holds you, your bed, your chair, or that cozy blanket wrapped around your shoulders. Feel how the day begins to drift away, piece by piece, as if it never belonged to you in the first place. Outside your window, the night is calm. The world has quieted down, and the sky has dressed itself in stars. Imagine gentle snowflakes floating in the distance, each one falling without hurry, without noise, just a silent rhythm to remind you that everything is allowed to slow. And here, in this moment, so are you. The glow of a fireplace flickers softly nearby, its warmth wrapping around you like an embrace. The golden light catches on shelves of books, on soft pillows, on every little detail that makes a room feel like home. You breathe in, and the air feels gentle, safe, peaceful. You breathe out, and the weight of today slips further and further away. There is nothing you need to do right now. No expectation, no demand, only rest, only stillness, only the quiet anticipation of a story that will soon take you by the hand and guide you through places that exist just beyond the edge of dreams. So, let the rhythm of your breath carry you deeper into calm. With every inhale, feel your body fill with ease. With every exhale, imagine the clutter of the day dissolving like mist. You are free now, free to wander through the world of tales where time is slower, and every word is a lantern leading you further into comfort. This is Pillowtime Lore, and tonight, a story awaits you. The night sky was calm and quiet, filled with countless twinkling lights that looked like diamonds scattered across a dark velvet cloth. But among those shining stars, there was one who was not like the rest. This little star was curious. It always wanted to see what lay beneath the clouds. While the other stars were content to sparkle in the heavens, the little one leaned closer and closer toward the earth one. Night, a gentle wind brushed against it, and the little star trembled with excitement. It began to slip away from its place. In the sky, at first slowly, like a leaf drifting in the breeze, and then faster, like a firefly diving into the darkness. The star glowed brighter and brighter as it fell, painting the night with silver streaks of light until it landed softly at the edge of a sleepy village. The village was resting under the moonlight, its houses small and warm, with thin trails of smoke rising from chimneys. Dogs were curled by doorsteps, and the streets were empty, except for the whisper of the night air. The little star tumbled into the grass behind one of the cottages, and its glow lit up the garden as if it were touched by daylight. The star looked around with wonder. It saw flowers bowing gently as if greeting it, and a pond reflecting its shimmer like a mirror. The The star had always gazed at the earth from far away, but now it could see how beautiful and alive everything truly was. The sound of crickets filled the silence, and the fragrance of night blooms surrounded it like a soft blanket for. The first time, the little star felt small, and yet so close to something it had always longed for. It did not know why it had come down or how it would return, but one thing was certain: its adventure had only just begun. In the corner house of the quiet village lived a girl who loved books more than anything else. While others spent their evenings playing or gossiping, she would sit by her small window with a lamp beside her and a book open in her lap. The pages carried her to places she could never travel and introduced her to people she could never meet in real life. Yet, despite the adventures her books gave her, she always felt a little lonely inside. That night the girl had fallen asleep with her book resting on her chest. The sound of crickets filled the air, and the soft light of the moon slipped through her window. Suddenly, a strange glow shone across her room, as if someone had lit a lantern in the garden. She rubbed her eyes, thinking it was a dream, but the glow grew stronger, and her heart began to race. Curious, yet nervous, she tiptoed out of bed and pushed the door open. The cold night air kissed her cheeks as she stepped into the backyard. What she saw made her breath catch in her throat. There, in the grass, lay a glowing ball of silver light, trembling softly as though it were alive. It was not fire. It was not a lantern. It was something she had never seen before. The girl crouched low, her fingers brushing the tips of the grass as she moved closer. The glow brightened as if it recognized her presence. Her shyness told her to step back, but her heart told her to stay. She reached out her hand, and the moment her fingertips touched the light, she felt warmth spread through her whole body like a hug. She had been waiting for her entire life. The little star pulsed gently, as if greeting her, and she whispered softly, so no one else could hear, "I will keep you safe." That night, the shy girl did not just find a star in her backyard. She found the beginning of a journey that would change her forever. The girl sat in the garden, staring at the little star glowing in her hands. Her heart was full of wonder, but also confusion, because she had no idea what to do next. As she sat there thinking, a sudden rustling sound came from behind her, and she turned quickly. It was her cat, a fluffy creature with sharp green eyes and a tail that always flicked like it was too proud to stay still. Cat padded closer with the elegance of a king inspecting his kingdom. He sniffed the air once, then looked at the glowing star with narrowed eyes. The girl expected him to meow like usual, but instead he opened his mouth, and out came words that made her almost fall back on the grass. Well, what do we have here?" he said, with a stretch and a flick of his tail. The girl gasped so loudly she scared a nearby bird into flight. "You can talk," she whispered, her eyes wide as the moon. The cat gave her a lazy stare and replied with full sass, "Of course I can talk now, thanks to that glittery ball you are clutching." Honestly, I thought you were clever enough to figure it out without me explaining." The girl blinked, unable to believe it, and then whispered, "But why, you?" The cat purred proudly and said, "Because clearly I was always the smartest creature in this house." And the star recognized true greatness when it saw it. She tried to protest, but the cat only flicked his whiskers and continued, "Now stop staring like a fish out of water and listen. That little star is not meant to stay here forever. We have to take it back before someone else notices it. And trust me, trouble will come sniffing sooner than you think." The girl hugged the star closer to her chest, still unsure, but somehow comforted by her cat's bold words. For the first time, she did not feel so alone in her strange discovery. The star had brought her a companion who would guide her with wit and sass through whatever was waiting ahead. The cat was right, because before the girl could even gather her thoughts, she felt the air around her grow heavy, as if the night itself was listening. The little star pulsed gently in her hands, as though urging her to move. The cat stretched, his back arched high, and said, with a flick of his tail, "Well, hero, it looks like our journey begins now, so do try to keep up." The girl wrapped a scarf around her shoulders and stepped out of the garden into the sleeping village. Everything looked ordinary, yet under the silver glow of the star, every shadow seemed alive, and every breeze whispered secrets she could not understand. Guided by the strange pull of the star, they walked past the last cottage and into the forest at the edge of the land. The forest was no ordinary forest. The trees leaned over like tall guardians, their leaves glowing faintly as if dipped in starlight. The path twisted and turned yet. Whenever she hesitated, the cat swatted her ankle with his tail, saying, "Left, not right, unless you wish to walk into a bush," and somehow he was always correct. Deeper inside the forest, fireflies hovered like lanterns, leading them to a clearing where a river shimmered as if woven from liquid dreams. The cat stepped onto a smooth stone and declared, "This is the river of dreams. One slip and you may end up lost in illusions forever. So do not stare too long at the water." The girl nodded and carefully crossed, stepping on stones that glowed only when her feet touched them. She kept her gaze forward, even when she heard laughter and saw shadows of old memories rippling beneath the surface. When they reached the far bank, she felt the star grow warmer, as though it was proud of her courage. Beyond the river rose the mountain of whispers, tall and silent, with clouds curled around its peak. Every step toward it carried the promise of challenge, yet also the thrill of discovery. The girl tightened her hold on the star, while the cat marched beside her, and together they began the climb toward the unknown. As the girl and her cat climbed higher up the mountain of whispers, the star glowed brighter with each step. Its light spilled across the rocky path and stirred something that had been hiding in the shadows for a very long time. Deep in a cave near the mountain peak, a shadow monster blinked awake. He had been dreaming of shiny things for centuries, and now a real treasure was walking right into his reach. The shadow monster was tall and wobbly, with arms that stretched too far and legs that tangled with each other whenever he moved. His face looked fierce in the dark, but the moment he tried to roar, a squeaky hiccup popped out instead of thunder. Still, he puffed his chest and whispered to himself, "This time I will not fail," even though he always did. He stepped out of the cave, dramatically ready to pounce, but his long leg tripped over a rock, and he rolled all the way down to where the girl and the cat stood. The girl gasped, and the cat raised one brow, unimpressed, while the monster tried to untangle himself from his own shadowy arms. "Give me the star," he demanded, but his voice cracked halfway, and the cat snorted, terrifying. "Really?" "I almost fainted from fear." The monster lunged, but the ground was slippery, and instead of grabbing the star, he smacked into a tree so hard the branches rained down leaves on his head. The girl could not help a small laugh, and the cat added with sass, "Perhaps you should practice walking before stealing." Still determined, the monster tried again and again. Once he got stuck in a thorn bush. Another time, he sneezed so loudly, he scared himself back into hiding for a moment. Yet no matter how clumsy he was, his shadowy form always reappeared with a stubborn glare that somehow made him more pitiful than frightening. The girl clutched the star closer, her fear melting into courage. With every failed attempt, she realized that not all monsters were truly dangerous. Some were simply lost and foolish. And though he tried with all his might, the star would never belong to him. The climb grew steeper and the air thinner as the girl and her cat pressed onward. The star nestled in her arms, glowed with steady warmth, guiding them through the dark clouds that wrapped around the mountain. But inside her heart, the girl still felt small and uncertain. She had never been brave or bold. She had always hidden behind her books and her quiet nature. Now, here she was, facing forests, rivers, and a clumsy shadow monster who refused to give up. At one point, the path narrowed into a ledge with a drop so deep she could not see the bottom. Her legs trembled and fear crawled up her spine. The cat leaped across easily and looked back at her, saying, "Courage is not in your voice, it is in your step. Now decide." She closed her eyes, held the star tight, and stepped forward. Her breath caught as the wind rushed against her, but her foot landed firm on the stone ahead. One step, then another, until she reached the other side, where the cat sat with a proud flick of his tail. In that moment, she understood that courage was not about shouting or looking strong. It was about moving even when fear tried to root her in place. Later, when the shadow monster tried once more to block her path, she did not hide behind the cat or cry out for help. She stood tall, her hands firm around the star, and said softly, yet steadily, "It is not yours, and I will not let you take it." The monster stumbled back, surprised by the strength in her quiet voice. The girl smiled to herself as she realized that even the smallest whisper can carry the weight of true bravery. At last, the girl reached the peak of the mountain of whispers. The sky above her stretched wide and endless, filled with the same stars she had always admired from her window. Yet now they felt closer, as if they were waiting for her arrival. The little star in her hands pulsed with warmth, glowing brighter than ever, as though it knew it was finally home. The cat sat beside her tail, curling neatly around his paws, his voice unusually gentle as he said, "This is the place, let it go now before it grows too heavy for you to carry." The girl's heart tightened. She did not want to say goodbye, for the star had become her friend, her secret companion who had shown her courage she never believed she had. She lifted the star high above her head and whispered softly, "Thank you for choosing me. I will never forget you." The wind caught her words and carried them into the night. The star shimmered once, twice, and then slowly began to rise from her hands, drifting upward like a lantern made of pure light. She watched with wide eyes as it soared higher and higher until it slipped back into its place among the other stars. For a moment, she feared it would disappear forever, but then one star twinkled brighter than the rest, flickering in a rhythm almost like a heartbeat. She smiled through the sting of tears, for she knew that was her star, watching over her every night, reminding her of the journey they had shared. The cat leaned against her side and muttered, "Do not cry, hero. You will see it again every time you look up." And with that comfort, she turned toward the village, ready to walk home, carrying not a star in her hands, but courage in her heart. The journey down the mountain felt lighter than the climb up. The girl walked with the cat at her side, and the night sky glowing above her. Every time she looked up, her star twinkled brighter than the rest, as if it was winking at her, reminding her that she was never truly alone. The fear that once weighed on her had melted into calm, courage, and quiet. Joy. When she reached her little cottage, the village was still asleep, and the garden waited silently, as if holding its breath for her return. She stepped inside, placed her scarf on the chair, and crawled into bed with the window open wide so the sky could pour its light onto her room. The cat curled at her feet, pretending to be indifferent, yet keeping one eye on her with secret fondness. She lay on her pillow and let the night breeze brush against her face. The crickets hummed softly like a lullaby, and the glow of the star in the sky reached down through her window, painting her walls with silver light. Her eyelids grew heavy, but her heart was wide awake with the warmth of everything she had. Learned, she whispered one last time, "Good night, little star. Guide me in my dreams." And as if in answer, the star twinkled gently, its rhythm steady like a promise. The girl smiled and drifted into sleep, knowing her dreams would forever carry the shimmer of courage, kindness, and adventure. No longer just stories in her books, but real moments she had lived in. So every night when the village slept, a shy, book-loving girl dreamed under the watch of a faithful star, her heart steady, her courage true, and her nights filled with light that would never fade.